Some disappearances explode into the world. Sirens, breaking news, a timeline everyone can recite, and a last moment you can point to. But others happen in a whisper. A curbside goodbye, a phone that suddenly goes silent. And then, nothing but unanswered calls and a family forced to live inside the question mark, chasing dead ends for years, praying for one solid fact. Pepita Madeline Redhair is one of those cases that should have stayed quiet. Except it didn't, because the silence never made sense, and the questions never stopped. March 27, 2020. Pepita vanished from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And here's what makes it hit even harder. Her last known location wasn't some stretch of highway or a place no one can trace. It was a home, a place she'd been before, a place she chose to go, and a place connected to someone she knew.
What's the emergency?
No problem. All units are by 34 with the 149 Hill and John Young Freeway. 1549 East 28.
Welcome back to Crime Solver Central. I'm Jace. Before we begin, Pepita is a missing person. No one watching should treat theories like facts. Our goal is awareness, accuracy, and getting information to the right place. Pepita's family is grieving her, and we have a responsibility to report on the facts known about the case. We'll walk through what's publicly reported about Pepita's last known timeline, the details that stand out, what's been said by family and by others, and then we'll close with ways that you can help, especially if you were in Albuquerque around that time, or if you recognize anything about her case. Here's the core of the case. Pepita Redhair was a 27-year-old Native American woman and was an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation. On March 27, 2020, Pepita's mother, Anita King, dropped her off at her boyfriend's house in the 1000 block of Clements Street Southwest in Albuquerque. And after that, Pepita has never been seen or heard from again. It was reported that Pepita had recently told her mother that she was worried. Specifically, she had said that her boyfriend had been drinking heavily and had been physically violent toward her. Her mom tried her best to convince her to come home. Pepita instead insisted that she'd be okay. And that was, unfortunately, the last confirmed contact anyone had with Pepita to this day. Following that final communication, a few days passed, and her mom didn't know that was her final communication. Then, something happened that, in missing persons cases, is like an alarm bell. Her mom texts her phone and receives no reply, which is described as out of character. Then, later, her mom finally receives a message from a man saying that someone else, not Pepita, had sold him Pepita's phone. That's huge, and that detail really matters, because phones in today's world are lifelines. Even if someone's laying low, if they're overwhelmed, if they're sick, a phone is usually the last thread and the last thing they part ways with. And when that thread is suddenly sold, the obvious question is, who had it? And why did they have it?
Her voice.
She will never be with us. I'm going to stay strong and continue to pray for hopes.
Filled with heartbreak.
Her dad passed away September 28th this year. He didn't get the closure. That was kind of like the saddest thing that happened as well. I promised him that we're going to find our daughter.
We want to take a few minutes to make sure that we don't lose Pepita as a person. Even though she's a missing person, it's important to remember who she is. Pepita is described as about 5'1" and 141 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She had 2 moles on her chin and a scar on her left eyebrow, and her tattoos are especially important for identification. Public reporting lists multiple tattoos, including a dinosaur on her right forearm, a koi fish or dinosaur on her left forearm, a butterfly on her shoulder, a moon with lightning on her left leg, and her last name, Redhair, tattooed elsewhere on her body. Also note, the clothing description from that last day includes a black shirt and black shoes. Now let's try to transition to the timeline and the parts of this case that don't sit right. And we're going to be careful with wording here, because some details are statements reported by family, and some are statements reportedly made by Pepita's boyfriend. So we'll try to clarify as many of those details as we can. Two things can be true at once. Family members can have strong beliefs, and law enforcement may still have unanswered questions. And in this case, at least one source notes no one has been officially named a suspect, and the circumstances remain unclear. So, March 27, 2020, Pepita is dropped off at the home on Clements Street Southwest. From there, what we have publicly is a gap. And that gap is where this family has lived for years. Then we get the phone detail. Her mom texts and doesn't get a reply, which is described as uncharacteristic. Later, a man responds from Pepita's number saying someone else sold him the phone. That was the moment her mother decided to file a missing persons report. And it's worth remembering the date, March 2020. What was the big event in March of 2020? Well, it was the very early COVID pandemic era. Lots of systems were overwhelmed. A lot of routines were broken or disrupted. And missing person cases can slip through cracks when they need urgency most, as was unfortunately the case here. One publicly available summary reports that Pepita's boyfriend, identified as Nicholas K., said they went out for a drink, had an argument, and then Pepita walked out. He later said he got a text from her phone saying she was with another man. And we want to be crystal clear, that's a reported account, not a verified conclusion. At the same time, there are also serious concerns described by Pepita's mother, that Pepita had told her about heavy drinking and physical violence at the hands of her boyfriend. And then, there's what local reporting captures years later. Families have been very vocal about who they believe is responsible and what they believe happened, saying that they believe her boyfriend harmed her and is covering it up. That's framed as the family's belief, not an official finding by police. And that's a painful, complicated reality, because families often see patterns long before anyone else does. But we also have to respect that the public doesn't have the full investigative file as of this time. Pepita's case is also discussed in the context of the missing and murdered Indigenous people crisis. And when you read local reporting, you see how many families are carrying similar grief at once. For example, the Albuquerque Journal reported that there are nearly 200 Native Americans reported missing in New Mexico alone, citing FBI statistics. This isn't just one case. It's a pattern, and that pattern can make investigations harder and urgency inconsistent. So, let's talk about how community sharing, posters, social media, tip lines, sometimes become the second set of eyes when systems we're supposed to rely on occasionally fail. So, if we pause and list what stands out, just the big picture, there are a few points that keep circling back. Let's go through some of those now. The last confirmed location is specific, not somewhere in Albuquerque. It's a particular block and a particular house where she was last seen. The phone, the idea that someone else was using her number and claiming the phone was sold, after she's already out of contact. That's a massive concern. There are also the reported domestic violence concerns and the period leading up to her disappearance. Almost 6 years later, as of this recording, the case remains unresolved, with her family still publicly pushing for answers.
She had this infectious laughter that I miss. She had a happy personality. I want her to come home.
Anita King spends most of her days fighting back tears. Her daughter, Pepita Redhair, went missing over 18 months ago.
Right away, my intuition was telling me that something is wrong.
Anita says she last saw her daughter March 27th, 2020, right before she left to see her boyfriend in Albuquerque. Anita adds Pepita was a victim of domestic violence.
Okay, theories. To be clear, these are not accusations, not conclusions. Just a framework for how cases like this often unfold, and what details might matter to someone out there who knows something. Theory 1 is certainly the hardest, that being foul play, which happened close to the last known location. When the last sighting is at a partner's home, investigators often focus there early, because it's one of the few anchors in the timeline. In Pepita's case, sources describe her telling her mother about physical violence, which certainly raises the stakes. Theory 2. Someone else became involved after she left the home. Whether that's an opportunistic crime, a ride with the wrong person, or something that starts as normal and turns dangerous. This connects to the boyfriend's claims that she left after an argument and to the later text from her phone detail. Theory 3. Trafficking or exploitation, which is often raised in MMIP discussions. We're careful here because trafficking often gets used as a catch-all online. But the broader point is, vulnerable moments can be targeted, and that's why tip lines matter, even years later. Theory 4. A voluntary disappearance. And we include it because investigators have to consider everything. But the case details push back on that, meaning this theory is least likely. Her mom describes the silence as not like her, and the phone being separated from her is another warning sign. And to reiterate, one source explicitly notes that no one has been named a suspect, and the circumstances remain unclear. So we don't do online trials here. We do awareness. We do tips to the right places. Do any of these theories seem more likely than the others? Let us know in the comments, even if you have a theory of your own. If you've made it this far, here's the most important part. Action. Awareness is step 1, but cases move when the right fact reaches the right investigator. If you have any information about Pepita Redhair, especially if you lived in or near Southwest Albuquerque around late March 2020, knew her, recognized the tattoos, saw someone matching her description, or know anything about a phone being sold, please contact law enforcement in the area. Here are several official and public contact routes. Albuquerque Police Department, APD. The city's official contact page lists the non-emergency line as 505-242-COPS or 505-242-2677. The City of Albuquerque Police Directory lists the APD missing persons line as 505-924-6000. The New Mexico Department of Public Safety Missing Persons Hotline is 1-800-457-3463. And local reporting also directs tips to the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office at 505-222-1099. And you can also send tips to Crime Solvers Central, especially if you're not sure where your information fits. If it's urgent or time-sensitive, always prioritize calling law enforcement first. Please share this video, subscribe, and enable notifications for similar cases. Small actions like yours can help families get closer to the truth. Pepita Redhair is still missing. Her family is still searching. If you know something, please say something. Thank you for joining us on this episode. This has been Crime Solver Central. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay loud